Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamunatera Vanachari Yamunatera Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotadashatashri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotadashatashri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopikopana Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the Sammal devotees. All glories to the Sammal devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the Sammal devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, titled Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 20. No. Lord Vishnu appears in the sacrificial arena of Prithu Maharaj, text 18. Sprashantam padayo premna Vridditam svena karmana Shata kratum pavishadja Vidvesham visasrajjaha Shantam padayo premna Viditam svena karmana shatakrutum pravishya Vedasham visasarjaha Prashantam padayo premna Viditam svena karmana Shatakrutum pravisvaja Vedasham visasarjaha Santam padayo premna Viditam svena karmana Shatakrutum pravisvaja Vedasam visasarjaha Spashantam touching Padayoho feet Premna in ecstasy Vriditam ashamed Svena his own Karmana by his activities Shatakrutum King Indra Padavishya embracing Vedasham envy Visa Sarja gave up of course. Translation. As King Indra was standing by, he became ashamed of his own activities and fell down before King Prithu to touch his lotus feet. But Prithu Maharaj immediately embraced him in great ecstasy and gave up all envy against him for his having stolen the horse meant for the sacrifice. Purport. There are many cases in which a person becomes an offender to the lotus feet of a Vaishnava and later becomes repentant. Here also we find that although the king of heaven, Indra, was so powerful that he accompanied Lord Vishnu, he felt himself a great offender for stealing Prithu Maharaj's horse that was meant for sacrifice. An offender at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava is never excused by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are many instances illustrating this fact. Ambarish Maharaj was offended by Durvasa Muni, a great sage and mystic yogi, and Durvasa also had to fall down at the lotus feet of Ambarish Maharaj. Indra decided to fall down at the lotus feet of King Prithu, but the king was so magnanimous as a Vaishnava that he did not want Maharaj Indra to fall down at his feet. Instead, King Prithu immediately picked him up and embraced him, and both of them forgot all the past incidents. Both King Indra and Maharaj Prithu were envious and angry with each other. But since both of them were Vaishnavas or servants of Lord Vishnu, it was their duty to adjust the cause of their envy. This is also a first-class example of cooperative behavior between Vaishnavas. In the present days, however, because people are not Vaishnavas, they fight perpetually among one another and are vanquished without finishing the mission of human life. There is a great need to propagate the Krishna consciousness movement in the world so that even though people sometimes become angry and malicious toward one another, because of their being Krishna conscious, such rivalry, competition, and envy can be adjusted without difficulty. Om Ganativadandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulan Meditam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha Kam Kaditivachalam Hangam Nangayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurun Diritaninam Vacha Kapadirubhishcha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I'll read the translation again. As King Indra was standing by, he became ashamed of his own activities and fell down before King Prithu to touch his lotus feet. But Prithu Maharaj immediately embraced him in great ecstasy and gave up all envy against him for his having stolen the horse meant for the sacrifice. So Indra is lamenting or is ashamed, and he was falling down at King Prithu's lotus feet, which is quite amazing because Indra, he's the king of heaven, very powerful personality, and to fall down at, because you have the king of heaven, Indra, and then you have the king of this world, Prithu Maharaj. But just from an objective point of view, Indra, he's in a way much higher position than Prithu Maharaj. But still he falls down at his feet because he's ashamed for having done what he's done in the previous chapters to Prithu Maharaj, stealing his horse and creating so many disturbances. But it says before Indra was able to do that, Prithu Maharaj stopped him and he embraced him in great ecstasy. And he said he gave up all envy against him having stolen the horse meant for the sacrifice. So yeah, this is what is supposed to happen when there's some, you could say, quarrels or some difficulties in a relationship, is that it's not supposed to continue like that. Tension and anger and frustration and envy and holding grudges and all that. They're supposed to come to a point where both of the parties forgive each other and they learn how to live with each other and they learn how to move on and learn how to deal with each other. And you could say that's not so easy nowadays because it's Kali Yuga, it's the age of quarrel, the age of hypocrisy, which means that people have a huge tendency to quarrel and people have a huge tendency to be hypocrites. And hypocrisy, especially in religion, is very unattractive to people. It's probably one of the biggest things that turns people away from religion, is that they feel that there's a lot of hypocrisy going on, and that the leaders of religious organizations, they're a bunch of cheaters, which in many ways these people are right. Yeah, there are so many cheaters in these religious organizations, and it's understood, that's understood. People within any religious organization, there's going to be people who are after the wrong things, namely money or big position or respect or all these different things, or they may be doing all types of, while in those positions, posing as saintly persons, but clearly not, and meaning not able to hit the mark of freedom from sinful activity. It means they're engaging in sinful activity. So people are discouraged from that. Oh, this is just this. What's the point of being engaged in religion if these religious leaders aren't even following? And why am I supposed to listen to them anyways? What they're preaching. What's that noise? Oh, so that door's closed, right? Yeah. So they think, what's the point? Why am I going to follow these people? Now, that's an important point, and yeah, it does turn people away from religion. But also, an interesting thing to note is that the followers of particular religions, not the leaders necessarily, the followers of particular religion also turn people away. So it's not just the big leaders that turn people away, the followers do too. And people see sometimes hypocrisy in them, that, oh, these people, they're also after the wrong things, they're also not following, and they're also not up to par on what they're preaching. Why should I listen to them? So yeah, they turn people away from religion. So therefore, leaders have to be careful that they're not being hypocritical. And also followers have to be careful that they're not being hypocritical. Because that destroys the whole purpose of what they're trying to do, or at least what they should be trying to do, in bringing people to God, bringing people to Krishna. That's the whole point of. That's why is this temple here? That the point of the temple being here in Pacific Beach is to bring people to Krishna. That's the whole point. So if leaders or followers are giving Krishna a bad name, giving the spiritual master a bad name, giving Prabhupada a bad name, then it goes against the whole principle. It's the worst service. It's the worst service one could do. Disservice. So yeah, we have to be careful. So that applies to us too. That we may not be big leaders, but we're followers. And of Krishna consciousness, we dress in a certain way. We put on tilak. We're trying to be devotees, and we're trying to spread Krishna consciousness. So that goes for us too, that we have to be careful that when people come to the temple, when we meet people out in the world, that instead of turning them away from God, we bring them to God, we bring them to Krishna. That's important. Or else we're completely going against the principle. And some people, they within religious organizations such as ISKCON or other groups, in terms of quarrel and hypocrisy and all these different things, they may be very quick to also go after the leaders, which for some reason they attract a lot of attention. Well, one is because they're in maybe big positions and this and that, or they have some charisma or whatever it may be, but they attract attention of the followers of particular religious organizations. Now, I don't know if it's a huge problem within other groups, whatever, the Mormons or different Christian churches or Catholicism or this and that. Everybody's after the leaders, or at least a lot of people are after the leaders. But at least I know within ISKCON is that sometimes the tendency is there, oh, let's go after the leaders. It means the followers are going after the leaders. It means that they think, oh, they're not following, or they're being hypocritical or whatever it may be. And whether that's the case or not, and whether who's being hypocritical, who's being not, to what degree they are, maybe they're not, maybe they are, whatever the case may be, still we should always remember that, hey, we're also part of the group. And just as we are maybe after the leaders are seeing particular faults, possibly. Similarly, we're also part of the group, and they're talking upstairs, too loud. And people will also look at us. People will also look at us, and because we're also leaders to some degree. Anybody who comes to the temple for the first time, they look at us as a leader to some degree. Or anybody who comes to the lounge, or anybody who's becoming a new devotee, they look at us as a leader, even though we've been around maybe a month or 2 months or a year or 2 years or whatever it may be. To them, we're like a leader, like a teacher. So although we may be quick to see the faults in our leaders, people may also be quick to see the faults in us. So I'm saying is we're on the same position, we're on the same boat. And in other words, we shouldn't spend so much time focusing on others, our seniors, our leaders, their faults, or whatever it may be, quarrel and or whatever. But we should try ourselves to be a good example, because we ourselves are leaders to some people. To all the non-devotees, or all the people who we're supposed to set a good example. And this is what Srila Prabhupada is hinting at in this purport, or this is what he's mentioned, the point that in present days, however, because people are not Vaishnavas, they fight perpetually among one another and vanquish without finishing the human form of life. So we don't want to fall in this category that we are vanquished without finishing the human form of life. And this is what people do. They fight perpetually, and then they don't fulfill the human form of life. So in other words, people become so addicted, so attached, so absorbed in others, in their problems, whether leaders or whether our friends or whether our family or whether people or whether the society, become so absorbed, addicted, attached to focusing on those problems that they're vanquished and they don't attain the mission of life. They don't attain the goal of life. And that happens all the time. Amongst non-devotees, without a doubt, but also amongst devotees. It's just a disease that is going on. So we don't want to fall into that category. Why? Because you fall into that category and we remain with a dirty heart perpetually. A dirty heart, a filthy heart, dirty heart. Why? Because too much focusing on external. That's always been the problem. There's no other problem, practically speaking. Too much focus on the external world means focus on the forms, the tastes, the sounds, the everything of external world. And that goes also into the category of people. Too much absorbed in people, their problems, their issues, this, that. I mean, even gurus and teachers shouldn't become too absorbed in their disciples' problems. I mean, imagine what will happen if you think about every single problem your disciples are going through. You can't retain your sanity like that. You have to let it go. So we shouldn't become too absorbed in the external world, which has always been the problem, absorbed in Maya, this external world. But we should be absorbed with Krishna. We should be with Krishna. We should be with the Supreme Personality of Godhead perpetually. So, and this is the whole point that the spiritual master, that Krishna, they're trying to get us to the point where we focus on Krishna. We stop focusing on the external world so much. That doesn't mean we just close up the temple and stop preaching, but factually, without focusing on Krishna, without concentrating our minds on Krishna, without becoming Krishna conscious, we can't really preach. Our preaching is not pure, which it should be pure preaching, pure motive. And as time goes on, that will become, all these things will become more clear to us, that we need to stop focusing so much on the external world. But the challenge is that over time in Kali Yuga, the propagation of sense gratification becomes so much more intense. It becomes very intense. Like, in other words, society urging us to just be sense enjoyers. That's it. Which means just like animals. It becomes so intense that it's a challenge, actually, because you're being push, enjoy, be a sense enjoyer, which practically means don't be a devotee, because a devotee is not a sense enjoyer. A devotee is a devotee of Krishna. They give enjoyment to Krishna, which is completely opposite. One is enjoy yourself, and one is enjoy with Krishna. They don't go together. So so Maya and her army becomes more intense over time. Just like I know somebody and they say, I don't watch any movies nowadays. Anything that's produced in the theater, I do not watch nowadays. I don't watch anything past 1950 or something like that, 1960. And why is that? They were saying that because everything just has to do with violence, so much violence. I mean, the movies they produce nowadays are just like, it's just like the supreme, like the sicker it is, the better, in terms of violence. It's not just like the good guy after the bad guy. A lot of it's just pointless violence in the movies nowadays. Just the sickest violence ever. Horror movies, for example. Just pure, pointless, sick violence. And that people are attracted to. People like it for whatever reason. It's actually tamasic. Terribly tamasic. And also, within these movies, within modern, it's all about men and women and sexuality. Those are the two chief things: sexuality and violence. And back in the 50s and 60s, it was controlled. You couldn't put certain things on the screen. It was against the law. No one thought about it. It was just considered uncultured, gross, animalistic, just not what humans do in America and throughout the world. But now it's just normal. People, it's normal. This is what, that's just how they are. That's how movies, and people think it's normal. It's not normal. It's like sick. It's weird. It's twisted. But over time, things become more and more intense. Why? Because people are just trying to squeeze some happiness out of their godless life. But it's very difficult to get, so they have to make it more and more intense. So what does that mean practically? That means devotees have to become more intense. They have to become more fixed up. They have to become more intense in Krishna consciousness. Or else there's a chance that they might fall into that what everybody else is into, Maya, to certain degrees, different degrees. Like within Las Vegas, for example. I mean, it's intense there. It's a place of sense. It's a place of sense enjoyment, and that's what people go for. And the advertisements, are just extremely ridiculous, intense, just like what, just not the most passionate advertisements you could think of. Like Jagannath Tirtha said, he used to live in SanDiego, then he moved to Las Vegas, and he said that this is many years ago. He used to watch TV or whatever, and he'd see the commercials on, and they'd be trying to sell a car or something, and it was just like so intense. The advertisement for selling the car was like explosions and whatever, women there and this and that, and buy the car, It's like, oh my, and so many things were like that. And the news was also like way more intense, like what people were getting into, the trouble and all that. And then he moved back to SanDiego, and the commercials were kind of more relaxed and mellow. And SanDiego's actually a bit conservative, thankfully, more than LA. LA is more intense, but SanDiego is more conservative about all this stuff. Hopefully it remains like that. But still, within the world, and even within SanDiego, things become more intense. They're trying to push all these things on us. So again, that means we have to become intense, and specifically, that means our propaganda, or our trying to spread Krishna consciousness, our trying to give Krishna consciousness to others, needs to be more intense. When things become more intense, when people are being pushed off a cliff, right? Because that's what all these things are doing. They're pushing people off a cliff to hell, practically. When people are being pushed up into the point they're at a cliff, and they're being pushed off the cliff into, an ocean of pain and suffering. And I don't want to go into what the fifth canto, what type of ocean they have in the fifth canto, the hellish planets, but that means that devotees should become more intense about about trying to give Krishna consciousness. In other words, devotees should try to create facilities for people. Like we have the Krishna Lounge, we have the Sunday Feast, but we could have other things too. We have our posters we could put up, which Ryan used to put up. We could put those up, or we could have somebody put those up, Krishna Lounge posters. A lot of people came from those Krishna Lounge posters. We could think of different ways to get the word out. Book distribution and Harinam and whatever. There's so many different innovative ways to somehow or other just at least let people know we exist. Like Srila Prabhupada said about Juhu Temple. He said, you should have a monthly newsletter describing to the life members, which at that time there's about 1,000 of them, which is quite a lot, 1972 or whatever. They made a lot of life members, early days. You should have a newsletter. And why is that? And then Prabhupada said, so they know we're not dead. So they know we're not dead, so they know we're alive. So we want to let SanDiego know that we're not dead. Every single person should know at least that we exist, and that the temple's here, and that the Krishna Lounge is here, and of course the youth plays a special role. Means especially the youth should know that we're here. College students, high school students, and the youth should know that we're here, existing, and we're not dead. So, in order to do that, we have to create facilities. We have to be out there. We have to somehow or other let people know that we're here, and that's important. Or else, what are people left with? They're left with this. They're left with Maya's program, which is not very good at all. And instead of becoming Krishna's devotees, or becoming, you could say, Krishna's men or Krishna's women, which that's what we're supposed to be, they're just Maya's men, Maya's women. They're just like puppets in the hand of Maya. So, to somehow or other attract people to Krishna consciousness and help them become, Krishna's men, Krishna's women again, is extremely important. And it's important for us too. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, how long have you been sleeping in the witch of the lap name of the witch of in the lap of the witch Maya? How long have you been sleeping? He sings a song like that. Jeev Jago, Gora Chandra Bole. Wake up, sleeping soul. You've been sleeping in the lap of the witch Maya. So in other words, we've been Maya's property for too long. And we want to become, again, Krishna's devotee. So we have to step it up. And that's, Krishna will, if we want to be devotees throughout our life, that's what's required. That you step it up over and over and over again, over and over and over again. Krishna expects us to step it up over and over and over again. It's not that, okay, well I did all this and I'm good. No, it's not like that. Krishna consciousness, Krishna wants us to step it up. Year after year, decade after decade, day after day, step it up, step it up. So yeah, in this way, sometimes people miss the point of human life, and we don't want to fall into that category. So here we're talking about envy, we're talking about anger, we're talking about frustration, all those wonderful things. And talking about offenses, those are especially wonderful. Right? Everybody likes committing offenses. Everybody may like committing offenses, but they don't like the reactions, suffering. They might take some pleasure in offending somebody, but there's always reactions. That's the unpleasant thing. So the point here is that we offend Vaishnavas and Krishna doesn't excuse it. Why? Because Krishna has so much love, so much devotion, so much affection for his devotees that it makes it impossible for him to excuse it. And the only way that Krishna will be okay with you or okay with us is that if we get that devotee's blessings, get that devotee's mercy, get that devotee's forgiveness. So of course, as Srila Prabhupada, one devotee told Prabhupada that, "Oh Prabhupada, I commit so many offenses, I'll just be going around all day asking everybody to please forgive my offenses." Right? "Oh, I offended you, Glenn, please forgive me. Oh, I offended you, oh, Santosh, I forgot. I offended you, Damodar, please." So you go around all day just asking for forgiveness. So this, Prabhupada said, "No, that's not necessary." He said, that's why in the morning we chant this prayer, Vancha Kalpavibhishta Kripasindhabheva. We offer respects to all the devotees. In this way, we're supposed to be offering respects to each other, obeisances to each other, asking within ourselves for forgiveness for whatever offenses we may have committed. So yeah, we just have to be careful that, yes, we may have some envy within our heart, we may have some anger within our heart, we may have so many things within our heart that may urge us to, or push us to commit offenses. But upon committing the offenses, we have to recognize that we committed them, and we have to rectify them. And we shouldn't be ashamed to admit that we made a mistake and we committed some offenses. We should try to rectify it. And if somehow or other we don't have that good sense, we don't have that common sense, we don't have that good sense, we don't have that intelligence, that means we just have to suffer. And over time, hopefully, by the pain we're experiencing, we will brighten up. Means the light bulb will go off in our brain or our consciousness, and we'll think, okay, well, I should try to rectify my offenses. So there's no way of getting around it. That you commit offenses to Vaishnavas, you have to get their forgiveness. You can't go to Krishna directly. It doesn't work. So we have to go to devotees. And as time goes on, and as we're living in a tight-knit community, right, we're bound to commit offenses towards each other. But we should somehow or other come to the point where we don't anymore. We don't commit offenses. So it's just like in chanting. You come to the point of offenseless chanting. So similarly, in relationships, you come to the point of offenseless dealings in relationships. So this is the idea, to try to come to that mark. And Prabhupada gives the example of Durvasa Muni, which will be the last point. That Durvasa Muni was a great yogi, and he was proud because so many people were giving respect to Ambarish Maharaj, which by social position, Durvasa Muni was more advanced, or more, you could say, respectable. But still, because Ambarish Maharaj was a pure devotee, everybody was respecting him. So Durvasa Muni didn't like that. So then he came with a bunch of his disciples to Ambarish Maharaj's palace, and Ambarish Maharaj was going to feed him. Ambarish Maharaj was also fasting from Ekadashi, no water, no food. So Durvasa Muni said, okay, I'm going to go to the local river, I'm going to take my bath, and then I'll come back, and then we could have prasadam together. So Ambarish Maharaj said, okay. So they go back, and then the time in which you're supposed to break the fast, there's like a little window where you're supposed to break a fast in. The time was running out. So Ambarish Maharaj consulted some Brahmins and said, what should I do? I can't eat, because you can't eat before your guest does. You have to serve the guest first. So he said, what should I do? And then somehow they came to the conclusion that, well, you should just drink some water. Because by drinking water, it's breaking the fast, but not breaking the fast. So in other words, it's not a big deal. Durvasa Muni is not going to be upset. But somehow the Durvasa Muni, by his mystic power, he understood that Ambarish Maharaj broke the fast by drinking water. So he came back. And what did he do? He was so angry. He was extremely angry. I mean, imagine if, like, I don't know, you go downstairs, some guest comes, and then they're traveling from India or something. Oh yeah, Prabhu, yeah, go upstairs, take a bath, and then come downstairs, and we'll have some prasad together. And then, he goes upstairs, he takes a bath, and you come downstairs, and then you have a cup of water, and then he walks around the corner, then you're drinking a cup of water, right? And then he goes, what are you doing? And imagine he just like punches you in the face and beats you up and throws you in the alley or something for drinking a cup of water before you fed him lunch. I mean, but this is actually worse than that. What did Durvasa Muni do? He was about to kill Ambarish Maharaj. That's what he wanted to do. He literally wanted to kill him. So he got a piece of hair from his head and he threw it on the ground, and Triveda Prabhu says a demoness came up, but I don't know if it's a demon or a demoness, but I thought I looked in the Bhagavatam and it was a demon, but anyways. Demoness come. And the idea was that this demon or demoness was going to attack Ambarish Maharaj and kill him for that offense. So, but Ambarish Maharaj, he just stood there and was ready to be killed. And then Sudarshan Chakra came, Lord Vishnu's chakra, which will just annihilate, universes very easily. So it just came and it just killed that demon. And then the Sudarshan Chakra started to go after Durvasa Muni. So then Durvasa Muni was just in complete fear. So I said he traveled everywhere. Traveled to Lord Brahma. He said, I can't help you. Traveled to Shiva. I can't help. Go to Vishnu. So he traveled all the universe, and he went up to Lord Vishnu's abode. And then he met, and he saw Lord Vishnu, and he explained the problem, that I offended Ambarish Maharaj, I tried to kill him, and now the Sudarshan Chakra is after me. And can you please stop this Sudarshan Chakra? And Lord Vishnu said, I don't have the power to do that. And he said that you have to go back to Ambarish Maharaj and fall at his feet and ask for forgiveness. And then there's some nice verses where Lord Vishnu is glorifying his devotees as being, the devotees are like, in my heart, I'm in their heart, they don't know anybody but me, I don't know anybody but them. Even those who are devotees of my devotees are very dear to me. He said, I'm a glorification of the devotees. So then Durvasa Muni came back to this planet, and he went to Ambarish Maharaj. He bowed down and fell down at his feet and asked for forgiveness. And Ambarish Maharaj said, "Oh yeah, I didn't take any offense. No problem. Even though you wanted to kill me for drinking water, no problem." And I believed he served him prasadam. He served him his lunch. I'm not sure how long he was traveling for, Durvasa Muni, but so yeah, this is the example that Prabhupada brings up in the purport, that we have to go to devotees personally, and that's good because it teaches us how to be personal, which that is very important. Krishna conscious, to be personal or personalist means dealing with individuals and not avoiding them, and not that like, okay, well I offend 50 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, and I don't have to talk to any of them. I just talk to God. I just talk to Krishna. As long as we're good, then that's what matters, and all these other people. So. But Krishna has arranged it that we have to go to the devotees. So that's what's being explained here. So does anyone have any questions or comments?
Haribo. You mentioned that we should recognize and we can recognize if we committed offenses and rectify them and ask for forgiveness and move on. So what came to mind was, okay, move on, ask for forgiveness, and you forgive the other person if you felt offended. But does it mean that you could still remain a close relationship with that person, even though you feel like their own conditioning or our own conditioning will affect, and you might commit more offenses? It means you might feel like you might have to protect yourself from the conditioning of the other person and your own conditioning with that person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I forgot there was some instance where Prabhupada, somehow or other the devotees offended some life members or something, and Prabhupada said something that, like when you have a relationship with someone and there's some issues, of course not all the time, but sometimes there's some issues, it's like it's practically very hard to mend those again. Like gain the person's trust, gain the person's respect, gain the person's whatever. And it's like a cracked pot. You're trying to mend a cracked pot. It's very difficult. So the fact is that most people that I know, it's not that they have a bunch of deep relationships with a bunch of people. They have deep relationships with a few people. And it's understood that just not everybody is going to be as close to a particular individual. It's not that everybody's going to be super close to each other. And if someone's offended us, we offended someone, and probably in the first place we weren't so close, and that those offenses didn't really help. And it may so be that in the future we won't be close either. But at least, whether we're close or not to anybody or to a few people or whatever it may be, the idea is that we want to live in harmony at least. We don't want to be like fighting all the time and angry and tension and all these different unnatural things. Like, we may not be super close, but at least we're not like, fighting like cats and dogs and completely just disturbing the whole atmosphere. So that's the idea. I think that it's understood that there's not going to be a lot of people who are super close to each other, but at least there could be some basic social grace and harmony and respectfulness and stuff like that. So, does anybody have any other comments or questions? Okay. Jai. Grantar Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.